Hey, all my burners out there, this is WEEDMAN420 with the WEEDMAN420 Chronicles podcast. All my burners, tokers, smokers, stoners doing out there this week. Hope you're all doing great going into this Memorial Day weekend. I know it's been crazy out there with the COVID-19 and the stay-at-home order across the nation, and people still practicing their social distancing and wearing masks and gloves, and what you're hearing all over the news and media about everything and every which way. As we come to this time, the world is about to start opening back up. Countries opening back up again overseas, and then here in the United States, some states opening back up. Just please be safe out there while you're out there socializing and going to visit restaurants and supporting your local businesses. Just make sure you're being safe and watching each other's back and just taking care of one another out there. And I'm going to smoke this strain real quick, and Mrs. Weedman's here to say hello while I hit this GG4 by PTS. I'm excited about it. I've been smoking this the last couple of days. It's a really nice strain. I'll talk to you about it in a second. Mrs. Weedman, what's up?
Hello, Mr. Weedman. Hello, everybody. It's been a week since we were on here chatting, and not much has changed in the sense of living right now. We're still quarantining in our home. We're both in a field that's considered essential work, so we're working during the week, wearing our masks and gloves whenever we have to, and doing what we do. But one more week down and one more week closer to hopefully...
That was a good hit, sorry.
1 week closer, hopefully, to the quarantine ending and getting a little bit more normalcy back in our lives.
Yeah, that's for sure. Sorry, I choked a little bit on that on that hit I took, but it's this is GG4 by PTS. What I'm going to start talking to about, you're going to hear a lot more, and we've talked about this in prior episodes, is terpenes. I've been talking with a couple of growers, people in the cultivation world, people at dispensaries, and reading a lot more and more about terpenes. And just so you all know, terpenes matter. So in this strain that I'm smoking by PTS's GG4, the THC is THCA is 24.73, no CBD or CBDA, a little bit of THC at 0.52%. Total of 25.25%. Some of the stuff it says here, pain, stress, depressant, relaxed, euphoric, are some of the stuff you'll feel on this. And then the prevalent terpenes, and I'm gonna start reading about terpenes more and more. You're gonna hear more and more when I'm talking about different strains. And I'm gonna tell you what these terpenes are every time I talk, because once again, terpenes matter. And there's a lot of research and a lot of studies going. That is where you're really getting the most, I guess it would be, nutrients from your cannabis, and what a lot of the stuff that these microbes that they're finding is also found in your vegetables and your spices and herbs that you use too. So the first one on here is mycrene, and that is probably the most prominent in all strains. You find the most, and mycrene is the most common. Up to 60% of the essential oils of certain varieties of cannabis is found in hemp textiles, also found in large quantities in hops or in West Indian wood. It gives you a relaxing, calming, sedative effect. And I see this a lot in a lot of the strains that I smoke, because I do smoke a lot of indica style flower. Another one on here is beta. I'm going to butcher this like I always do. Cariphenylene. Can be found in various herbs and spices, in black pepper, spicy flavor. It's an anti-inflammatory, which is great. I need that for my back. It also has antifungal properties. Pretty cool. And then the last one in this one is neodymiol. I'll butcher that as always. But this is another one that has some great woody, fresh bark aromas. Can be found in ginger also, and citronella. It has also antifungal and anti-malaria properties. It also produces a sedative effect. Man, I like this stuff. That's why I go to sleep. And yes, Mrs. Weedman's laughing at me because I'm butchering these words. Sorry. I do. I don't get paid to
Some
spell.
of them were kind of funny.
Yeah, they were.
Anti-malaria.
There's another one on here I wasn't even about to pronounce. I should show it to you next time. But also, they talk about some flavors, like I mentioned, but this is a little earthy and got a little, says coffee flavor. I don't taste the coffee, but earthy and pungent. I really do like this strain. I've smoked GG number 4 in the past by different cultivators, but this is the first time I smoked PTS. and it's actually really good. It's a really nice strain. I've been smoking out of different stuff, bongs, bowls, and just trying it different ways, and smoking out of bong is a lot more intense. So great stuff, PTS. Keep on making this GG4 because I'll keep on buying it. And as we talk about terpenes, there's been a lot of research, and we talked about right when the COVID started on a prior episode about, there wasn't much research being done with cannabis, and now there is between Israel and Canada. A little bit in the United States, but because it's not federally legal, there's not much. But Canada and Israel right now are doing some major research on antiviral agents found in cannabis terpenes, as we just talked about, and how they're finding out and doing major research right now on, just so you know what a terpene is, the stuff that you smell, like we talked about, and it's organic compounds that create aroma in all plants. So just so you understand what a terpene is. And it's each cannabis strain contains of its own set of terpenes. There is over 200 plus terpenes, different types of terpenes. And in cannabis, there's 20 major ones that they find the most, and 3 of them that I mentioned, especially mycrene. But just so you know that they are finding out that it had a fight, terpenes fought against the SARS coronavirus and China when they did some research there. Israeli researchers plan to build upon this research developed on novel terpene combinations to use in the COVID-19 treatment. Cannabis research company called Cannasol Analytics and Israel entrepreneur will collaborate on this venture, which is kind of cool. And they're finding out that it's been approved as a corona lab, and is doing so. We're promoting 2 studies based on existing cannabis studies. First, we'll try to identify the plant's own molecules that are capable of suppressing the immune response to COVID-19 coronavirus, which causes inflammations and severe disease. So that's pretty cool. And then they're also studying more on how it compounds the ACE2 receptors. So some good news coming out of Israel. Also playing on the CBD part of it too. They're doing some major research on CBD could play some treatment also in COVID. So keep on going, Israel. And in Canada, they are at a couple different colleges. One is called Lethbridge Study. Research injected different extracts of sativa plant cannabis through into artificial human tissue containing the ACE2. The results were promising as some strains reduced viral receptor activity by 73%. Pretty cool. They're also doing research like Israel's doing with CBD, which is pretty awesome. And then also another company, another college in Calgary are studying more than 400 strains of cannabis and have determined that at least a dozen may offer potential as part of treatments to prevent coronavirus from infecting a host. So that's some good news, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I'd say.
Yeah. So keep on studying, keep on finding more, and hopefully we have some kind of help from cannabis. Another thing we should all start doing when we go to our dispensaries is start reading your labels. And I've been getting more and more into it as I read some of this label, but as I've talked about on prior episodes, and Mrs. WeedMan, I've talked to you about it, when you go to your dispensary, they don't know everything and what's in the strain you're asking about, or you're buying, or you're doing. So why you should read the label. And most people read labels when you're reading labels on nutrition, right? You read labels when you go to the store and buy stuff. So it's important that you read your labels on your cannabis. They are starting to put more and more stuff about what's in there, QR codes, products that need to be, you can contact the cultivator directly. Lab programs are starting to get on there. The results from the labs, what kind of cannabinoids are on there, what kind of terpenes more and more you're seeing now, because this is what people want to know. I guess you can call it connoisseur of cannabis. People are now becoming and want to know what's in their cannabis. Yeah. Some people, yeah. Some people just still want to get high.
Or someone to just make the decision and tell them what is going to work for them.
Right.
You don't have to know all of the...
So read your labels, ask questions if you're interested in knowing it. They're talking about, they're finding mold in cannabis, and they will allow up to like 15% of mold in your cannabis, as long as it tests positive 85%. So it's kind of strange. You got to know where it's coming from now if your cultivators are treating their plants correctly. So make sure you're reading the labels, you're asking questions, and we've talked about this on prior episodes, but it's getting more and more. I'm reading, and I've always said this is all about learning. We're learning to help you learn. So read your labels, ask the right questions. Some other stuff we talked about in prior episodes is should companies stop testing workers for cannabis. In Rochester, New York, they're going to stop. So some research we've talked about in prior episodes. It's kind of cool. Rochester, go. Go, Rochester, go. Some other stuff, too, is since cannabis is getting more legal in other states, some states are higher price per pound than other states. And here's what I thought was fucking crazy. Pennsylvania, $6,400 to $7,000 a pound cannabis is being sold for. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And then you go to a state like Michigan where pounds are $1,500 to $1,600 a pound.
Wow.
Michigan's also been older in producing and being legalized and more so medical. So and you have a lot of caregivers growing out there and stuff like that versus Pennsylvania, which is just starting out. And Illinois is roughly around $3,000 to $5,000 a pound right now. So if you look at Massachusetts is like $4,200 a pound. Arizona is between $1,800 to $2,200 a pound. Oklahoma is $1,200 to $2,200. So different states it's also, I think there's more in Oklahoma. There might be more growers growing than there is in Pennsylvania. So there might be like here in Illinois, there's only 25 cultivators right now licensed.
Right.
And they're growing, they're expanding their businesses for recreational, but different prices is going to different markets. I wonder what will happen if it goes federally legal and you can cross state lines and what people are going to do. If I can just go recreational to Indiana and it's $40 cheaper an eighth.
I'm going to go over there to buy it. Yeah.
Would you, as being a smart consumer?
I suppose.
I don't know.
Savings.
Yeah. You can, California, I heard at one point you can get pounds for like $600-700.
Wow.
And that's cheap.
There's just so much of it there.
Right. So different states are going to, in the future of cannabis, as stuff goes more and more recreational, and different states, you can start crossing state lines, and the market's going to go crazy. It's kind of exciting. We'll see here in the next few years what happens. Mrs. Weedman.
Yeah.
Do you think the stigma is changing in America about cannabis being safer than alcohol? Or do you think the stigma of weed is still kind of pulling people away?
I totally, I think we've even talked about this before. I totally feel like the stigma keeps people from consuming it if they weren't already consumers. So, like, you're people like us, well, me anyway, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, when I would never really do it because, I don't know, I just thought it was bad or something. So I've gotten on the other side. I'm on the other side of the stigma, but I still recognize that it's very prevalent. So I was reading through an article. It was from the 2020 Cannabis Consumer, and it was alcohol versus weed. And based on their studies, Americans just generally think that weed is safer than alcohol. That's a given. They've decided that. But they are more comfortable taking a sip of a drink than they are taking a puff of weed. So even though they think they're coming out of their own mouths and minds, they think it's a safer option of the two. They're not consuming it nearly as much because they feel like people are judging and they feel uncomfortable about it. So then this article went on proposing like pot versus alcohol, consumption versus perception. And in that study, they checked with 1,000 people, and 84% of them said they felt weed was safer than booze. And they thought 81% of them thought it was safer than a prescription medication. But only 35% of them feel comfortable with buying it. So it still prevents them from buying it. And out of all of the 1,000 that they interviewed, 50% said that they consume for both recreational and medicinal purposes. So it's kind of interesting. So I think the stigma is definitely still there. And I think we're a generation or so away from that changing.
What if I said that there's more deaths in alcohol than there is in cannabis?
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to know why? Because there's 0 deaths in cannabis to date.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how many deaths are attributed to alcohol.
Daily. There's probably a daily rate.
Right.
Yeah.
So we need to break the stigma.
Mm-hmm. And
Right.
it's just having open conversation and just bringing it to the table. It's not going to hurt you.
No, it's not going to hurt you at all. I mean, we've talked about how, yes, you can consume too much edibles or too much cannabis, and you do get a little sketchy, or you do.
But you're not going to die.
You're not going to die. So why is the stigma so harsh still on cannabis in certain states, certain people, but alcohol is looked at as being, hey, I've drank it my whole life, or it's been in my life, been in my family. I've been to parties. I see it at the grocery store, on shelves. You know, it's something we've talked about on this, but never really went into depth. I mean, obviously, we all know weed is safer than alcohol. You know, and more and more people need to start talking about it. I've admired watching you get on your soapbox with people and defend cannabis. You have multiple times.
Right. And I defend it saying like that it wasn't that long ago that I would have been on the other side of the argument. So I've completely flipped my script on it. Not that I ever felt it was terrible, but I did believe in a lot of the stigmas and the misconceptions and the learned, stigmas towards it. So now I'm on the flip side. So I like having that argument or debate, I should say. Yeah,
it's in some surveys that I've read and looked at, they say that 70% of survey takers said that social stigma was still the biggest barrier affecting their cannabis use or lack thereof. WeedMan420 and Mrs. WeedMan420 to the rescue. So, something that we've probably all heard it. If you follow any kind of politics, and I like I said, I don't go left, I don't go right, I just go straight forward. And, this federal weed legalization could repair an economy wrecked by COVID-19, CEOs said. So there's a lot of CEOs talking about how if we federally legalize it, they can make enough tax revenue to fix and repair the economy. I don't know. I'm very, very up and down about this right now. I don't know if cannabis is there yet. As we just talked about last, we talked about the social stigma. We talked about, how people still don't just talk about it or go buy it or would even be willing to try it. I don't know if it could save yet. I think then you would have to produce it on a scale to where you could sell it in pharmacies. You could sell it at Walgreens. You could sell it, and you have to do, like now you have CBD. You could buy it at gas stations. You would have to get it to where it's that 52 to 100 times more what it's doing now. So you would have to mass produce it like cigarettes.
Yeah. And that's what any true weed enthusiast does not want that to happen.
Hell no.
I think even a baseline, like coming in on the new feathers of introduction to marijuana, I guess. I don't even know if that made sense. That edible, what did I eat?
I don't know which one did you grab?
They were little gummies.
Were they
in that little gray jar?
Did you take? Oh, those are the new ones.
Oh,
the new brand we just got.
I apologize because I don't think I've made sense of any of my words today.
I think you've done a great job.
Okay,
edible just kicked in.
10 milligrams is kicking my butt right now.
Nice.
But it's all good. It's all good. I'm going to try to figure out what I'm talking about here. So could you remind me?
We're talking about, can cannabis save the United States, the economy, because of COVID-19? And certain CEOs of certain cannabis companies here say and investors, they spoke on a TV show about the nation's nascent marijuana industry and how it presents unique economic opportunities, ones that are not existent in other mainstream industries.
Okay, so like if we have just a few studies here and there that say like 10% of people are comfortable with weed, and another one that says 35% of people are fine with it, but they still don't want to do it. And all these studies are just identifying that even though people know that it's not bad, they still are uncomfortable with buying it and using it because of these mindsets. So how could we change an economy just by making something completely legal? I mean, we're in states.
It would take years.
But,
I think
it's going to take years.
It would take at least.
Yeah. I don't think that just
you can't
because,
rapidly do this. You know.
I don't think that just because it's made legal at every level of government is going to instantly like flip a switch in people's brains to make them think it's all good. I mean, there's only a small percentage of people that are good with it.
I agree with this. One of the owners of the cultivation company, cannabis company, says that he thinks that it has to start being part of the discussion. I agree 100%, but it's all going to move forward in how you work it and get it federally legal and what you do after that. You just, it's not, it has to,
that's the baseline.
You're 5 to 10 years away.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that, I mean, with 33 million Americans that just filed for unemployment, as of this week, it's the biggest Great Recession since 2008. It's peaked. People are fighting one another right now, and I'm glad cannabis is on the table, but it will not happen overnight. It's going to take some time to get all the states' regulations, get everything up and running.
Have systems.
It will not happen within 5 to 10 years. No. I'm sorry.
Well, maybe we'll be seeing it effectively in 10 years.
It could fix some of it. I don't think it's going to fix it right away. The states that already opened up, ready to go, could probably fix their states and a little bit kicked up to the federal government to help out on national programming, but not enough.
Right.
So
I'm laughing at you.
I know you're laughing at me. Why?
Everybody, Mr. Weedman has the shivers.
I do. That
does.
GG4 got me.
Can you
baked.
hear him?
It got me baked.
Shiver me timbers.
Snapped you right out of your fucking edible coma, didn't it? See? So you get to hear Mr. Weedman get the shakes, but still functioning mentally.
Oh, yes.
Right. Happens all the time. Here's another one. It's about saving the economy, and some of the Republicans, and they're all fighting in right now, trying to slam bills down each other's throat. Another $3 trillion they're trying to get. Listen, I'm just reading what I'm reading here and researching and stuff like that. Hey, listen, they're trying to help in this bill cannabis companies who can't get any help right now, that could be suffering, could be losing some of their businesses, and they're in this new $3 trillion bill. I agree that if any small business owner needs help and there's money out there, cannabis should be involved. But because it's not federally legal, if you do this, here's the thing. If you do this in this bill and you pass it, you have to make cannabis legal across the country, hands down. You cannot process this as just a one-time shot. I don't know. What do you think? Mrs. Weedman can't see so good. That's what she's thinking right now. So, something to think about out there. If they pass this bill and they help out cannabis companies across the United States, it has to go federally legal.
Okay.
It has to.
Yes.
100%. So think about that. Bad boys, what you want to do.
This is funny.
The sheriff's gonna come for you. Bad boys, bad boys.
So, earlier this year in news, the sheriff's department in Alabama caught
Alabama.
They caught their sheriff deputy smoking weed on the job.
Good for him.
It was the night shift.
Good for him.
So
good for him.
They're dealing with that right now. Then a year ago at that same department, another sheriff's deputy got busted with weed and meth. So maybe they got a little trouble in that little
Yeah, maybe it's the
corner
meth
of Alabama. And then here's a funnier one. This tops it, right? This is like the icing on the 2-layer cake. It's the top. So in 2008, the chief of police in Lumberton, Mississippi, MISSISSISSIPPI.
You went too many S's.
Well, anyway.
I was counting too.
He
just
got
in case.
caught smoking weed on camera. And what did he do? He said, "Who's the coolest? Me. I'm the coolest." Yeah, he's resigned. He's no longer on the job. So those are the bad boys of weed.
The bad boys. What you gonna do?
Down south.
Oh man, down in Alabama and Mississippi.
And that's your news story for the day.
By Mrs. Weedman. Mm-hmm. You've done a great job on the last few episodes talking about moms and dads smoking around their kids, the social stigma with families, how to talk to our teenage kids. What do you feel the legal age should be of smoking cannabis here in the United States?
Well, what are we? So you have to be 16 to drive a car, and you have to be 18 to vote. You have to be 18 to join the military. You have to be 21 to have a drink. And you can stay on your parents' insurance until 26. Now that's like a new milestone too, right? I don't know.
Good for them.
Right. So I've always thought it's kind of weird that you can enlist in the military at 18, but you can't drink.
Actually, you can enlist at 17 with your parents' signature.
But you can make an adult decision. You're considered an adult at 18, but you can't have a drink. I mean, we had a little military weed child who served in our United States Marine Corps.
Thank you for your service, Paulie.
Thank you. And he was able to make that decision at 18. You think back to, like, when you were 18, you thought you were invincible. But as a parent of an 18-year-old, you know how young they are. Mm-hmm. And they can decide to put themselves in a situation of sacrificing their life to serve our country. But they can't legally have a drink. It's just weird. So, all right, circling back, now weed. And now they want to make a minimum legal age. And so their studies are showing, and what they've said in most states is that 19 is appropriate. I think all of Canada is 19. And the most debated ages are making it legal at 18, 19, 21, or 25, I think based on like critical decision-making skills and maturity levels. But all in all, age 19 is your general age. And then, so they are basing it on things like if you would be okay to start smoking it at the age of 21 if you were looking at it as an educational perspective, because at that point your brain is matured and you're in more of like a mature stage in your general health. When they look at just general health, like my brain works, my heart hurts, my lungs work, my body works for me. Generally, I'm of good health. Well, 18, your body's mature enough. We're not talking now about educationally. We're just talking about human health. And then for mental health or people who currently smoke, they thought that it should be age 19. So it's just weird how they look at these different ages as being appropriate legal ages when you look at different categories of a whole person. But they, all their concerns are mostly for someone who would be under the age of 19. It has a lot, like you always hear about how bad it could be for their brain, and they're going to be addicted, and they're not going to finish school, and they'll never have a job. And I don't know. I don't understand what the premise of those studies are. Like, what are you looking at? Are you looking at the entire picture? Like, why is the kid a bad student? Or why is the kid a behavioral issue, or why is the kid ditching school all the time? Like, what's going on in their life? Are they struggling because they have no attention span already? Are they struggling because they've got home issues, family issues, money issues? What is it? Because I think if you broke it down, marijuana wouldn't be the base of what the issue is that child is struggling with. So I don't know. It would be interesting to see, and I think that we are going to see more of these like real studies happening, because now that it's legalizing in some states, they can start doing testing in facilities and analyzing and legally allowing people to use marijuana and analyzing how it affects their brain health and their neuro health and all that stuff. So I think it's going to be interesting in coming years to see all of the different reports come out. And I don't know. Did I get lost there?
No, actually,
No?
you were really fucking good.
Oh, okay. You were looking at me funny.
No, I was not. I was very impressed. You studied your age and why you think. I'm impressed. Very good, Mrs. Weedman.
Hey, I'm trying. You're stand-in for this quarantine.
I'm excited. You know how much we like Action Bronson. He's from Albania.
Mm-hmm.
The Prime Minister says lawmakers prepared to legalize medical cannabis. Pretty good. Go Albania. That's good for them in our international news.
Whoop, whoop.
Good stuff. I love when I hear stuff out of news. There was a big hash oil explosion in L.A. that injured 11 firefighters and destroys a fire truck. There was over 250 firemen on the scene.
When was that?
When was this? A couple days ago.
Oh, like whoa.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah, like a day ago, I think it was.
Oh.
The blaze, they were 30 feet high, the flames.
Jeez.
The fire began at Smoke Tokes Butane Extraction Facility on East Boyd Street. And first responders initially thought they were battling a routine fire. As firefighters spread throughout the building and climbed to the roof to put out the flames, one of them felt an unusual amount of heat and pressure coming from the rear of the building. Shortly, he warned everyone, clear, get out. Explosions rocked the entire block around 6:30 p.m., blasting pillars of flames that reached 30 feet high.
Whoa.
Yeah, some firefighters on the roof caught fire as they leapt through the flames and slid down an emulated ladder. They discharged their charred coats and melted helmets on the sidewalks.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, nearly a dozen firefighters sustained burn injuries.
Well,
3 were taken to the hospital.
you know what's going to happen after that? There's going to be all sorts of new standards and safety measures, and you're not going to be able to produce.
Well, I didn't. I was
Extractions.
debating on talking about this article, and the reason being is because I know some people who make their own hash oil at home with butane, and they do it on the home thing, and it just makes me nervous because of this. You don't butane's flammable; it can explode if you're not using it properly, and this proves a point. Professional place.
Probably had scientists on staff and
had all
engineers,
$250,000 machines.
Yeah,
You know,
the best
right.
equipment, Yeah,
And because all the stuff that in this one dispensary, it all goes into medical dispensaries and recreational dispensaries across LA. So it's sad to hear about this. And I know, this is going to put a little damper on probably the oil, another bad thing for the oil industry. One, it was the bad vape cartridges, and now this.
well, they just have to dial it in,
Yeah,
figure
well,
out what caused the problem.
Right.
They'll fix it.
So just a little more bad news that you don't want to hear about, because vape oil is not, they're finding out it's not bad for you if it's done through a medical dispensary. But also, please, if you're making this stuff at home, be careful.
Maybe don't make it.
Do it the other way. Buy the press and do the resin instead. It's a heated, 2 heated pressers that press. You take fat whole buds, and you basically are juicing them, and you're getting that resin from it. There's no butane. It's safer. I know it's a little bit thicker and harder. Trust me, do it that way versus doing with butane and making the oils. Smoke a big fat dab instead. So just be careful out there with that when you're playing with fire. You're gonna get burned. Hey, I think Mrs. Weedman did a great job on her topics today. We want to say thanks for listening. Hopefully, you're enjoying our show. We're almost up to 10,000 downloads, and I want to thank everybody across the globe who are listening to us. And catch us on Instagram on WEEDMAN420 Chronicles, WEEDMAN420 Pod on Twitter, or you can DM us or give us an email at WEEDMAN420Chronicles at gmail.com. And check us out. We want to say thank you. Got anything to say, Weed Girl?
Nope.
Oh, I mean, Mrs. Weedman?
I'm good here. We'll see you next week. I will probably still be here. I'll have some new things to teach you about. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, we appreciate you. As Paul always says, smoke smart, puff, puff, and away.